Hey everybody, my name is Jesse Collins, and I want to tell you all about my show, the Gentleman's Wrestling Podcast, here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. On the Gentleman's Wrestling Podcast, we do a thorough analysis on the biggest issues and trends within the pro wrestling industry. We talk a lot about pro wrestling media, we talk a lot about fan culture and wrestling's place within general pop culture, and we talk about the broader influences that are shaping the way we discuss and analyze the pro wrestling industry. We've had some of the brightest minds in the pro wrestling intelligentsia on the show, including WrestleNomics host Brandon Thurston, both Rich Craich and Joe Lanza from the Flagship Wrestling Podcast, Trevor Dame from the Through the Years podcast, and a whole lot more. This isn't a show for hot takes. It's not a show recapping the latest episode of television. This is a show focusing on the biggest topics in pro wrestling and doing a deep dive on the real stories behind the surface level analysis you might find elsewhere. The Gentleman's Wrestling Podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts, and we'd really appreciate it if you gave us a try. Thanks.
That's the sound of your current hype level at the gas pump. But brace yourself for something fuel nominal, because Unleaded 88 is about to take the hype to a whole new level. Unleaded 88 is cheaper, cleaner, and greener than regular unleaded. Plus, it's homegrown, making Unleaded 88 the clear choice at the pump and totally worth the hype. So pump it up with Unleaded 88, brought to you by Iowa Corn.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Hello and welcome back to another edition of Nights of Nitro, a long overdue episode of the show for myriad reasons that we will get into from your friends here at Days of Thunder. I'm your host, an unseasonably warm and sore Dave Ryan, joined as I always am by my faithful co-host Stagger Lee Malone. This is the most fucking cursed recording session that we've ever done. I think bar none at this stage.
You also have to bear in mind that I missed multiple months of the show last year, and this is probably still more cursed than any.
Yeah, because the thing about you is that when you went out, like, it was pretty apparent you weren't going to be back anytime soon to me.
Yeah.
So I was able to start planning in advance. I was still checking with you to give you the in if you were back, but I knew when I was making plans without you. Whereas this was like, we were to the point where a couple of times one or other or both of us were sitting on the call to record this very show, and it didn't happen.
Yeah, it was like literally minutes before we were due to start, and one of us had to call it. Like,
yeah. So let's do a roll call of a bunch of different scenarios. So with you on your side of things this time, I think it was like it was mostly my issues this time, because you had a couple of nights with children being possessed by Pazuzu. Basically. That seemed to be it.
I had a child that would just not sleep. I think twice, maybe.
Yeah.
It's been a long fucking week.
For those of you who are not long-term listeners, you have a child going through what I think the charitably called the Terrible Twos.
Yes.
Although, as I think I once said to you, I don't know if it was on or off air, when I said about the Terrible Twos, you said that they started quite some time ago.
Oh yeah, the whole two thing is a total falsehood. Like, it's basically from 1.5 on. So I had my young child who just would not sleep a couple of times, and I think also the fact that I have to be up for work by like 5:30 at the latest every day.
Yeah. And I don't come home from work until 9:30 at night.
some days. So like I'm still trying to adjust to a work schedule, and I'm
Yeah.
still trying to squeeze in a recording every now and again with yourself.
Not to mention having to watch 3 hours of Nitro in this case.
Yes, I'm watching the
You know.
shows while still trying to reasonably sleep at some points and see the
Yeah.
kids is getting.
Yeah.
It's a real balance like that. I'm trying to fucking work through here. But
Yeah.
then we also
And this
had
is
your
why
issues.
yeah, like to your schedule thing, this is why I kind of said on my solo audio, Grab Bag Radio, now available at largemanappears.com. I had said that our goal, maybe by the end of this month, is to get 1 or 2 episodes ahead, like we were for a long time. We had like 3 or 4 months where we were quite ahead of ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can not miss a week. And now we've missed like essentially 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We missed one Patreon and one free show because of all this. Because the first, like, and it was all freak stuff because there was that, like, obviously, no one on this God's earth can control a 2-year-old.
No.
Similarly, my laptop essentially exploded was the first thing that happened. I think that was the first thing,
Yes.
wasn't it?
It
Yeah.
was. That
So
that was the very start of it.
yeah, my laptop exploded. I had watched the show. But in terms of getting good quality recording, the only way I have of doing that is through my laptop at home. And that finally gave up the ghost. This was the laptop that I bought right around the start of us doing this show. So
Mm-hmm.
in terms of how long you usually get out of a Windows laptop, that's pretty good these days. So I owed her nothing, but having to go drop a sweet 5 hundo the like within a day or two to make sure, like, because my idea was, oh, I'll get this laptop straight away this week and we'll get right back on it. And I think once I had set up the laptop was your second night of, or maybe that
Yeah.
was your first night
I
of
think that was the
child
first night. I think that was
issues.
where we were just like, look, we'll write it off. You get the laptop set up, and I'll deal with this for tonight, and we'll be grand.
Yeah. Got everything set up, did my test recording with GBR. We were good to go. And then, yeah, your first night of childhood thing. And then we had a couple of nights again of like work schedules not hitting. And then, so I did this thing this past Saturday, which was like not to get too into it because I don't want to talk in too much detail about my work. But essentially, there's this huge athletic event in the area that I run my youth project in, and annually we are invited to volunteer to run water stations at the transition points in this multi-stage athletic event. And it does seem like a pretty like low energy day when you say like, oh, you're going to be out just filling water cups and passing them to athletes as they go by. However, firstly, it is quite a warm day and there is no cover whatsoever. We were out for 5.5 to 6 hours in that in unseasonable heat for Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
On a normal day, I'd be blessed that it was that warm. Um, I was kind of looking after my other volunteer and all the young people, making sure they ate and making sure they were hydrated to the point where I didn't really have time to look after myself. And as well, in terms of amount of things that had to be filled and poured out and stuff like that, I was informed shortly before the event began that as of the previous Wednesday, there had been 2,800 people registered to compete. And they have to do the serious athletes, which are like 2/3 of that,
Yeah.
have to do a circuit past us 4 times. So, like, I know we had 5,000 cups and almost all of them were used.
Jesus.
We had very few spare by the end. And like, as well as filling and handing out and putting on the table, we also had to go pick them all up at the end
Yeah, of
because
course.
the racers were not exactly neatly putting in the bin. They were grabbing them as they were running past and fucking
Mm-hmm.
them hither and yon. Like, so basically after that I was like, oh, it's the start of my bank holiday weekend, so I'm going to enjoy a trip. I was going to go down to County Wexford on the sunny southeast for the first time in my life. Actually, I'd never been to County Wexford before, funnily enough, to visit a friend of mine who'd moved down there. And while we were out, we had nice Japanese food, and then we were sitting outside in a pub watching the Champions League final. And I started to feel really, really cold. Um, and it was weird because it wasn't that cold. I was in shorts and a t-shirt, but it wasn't that cold out because my buddy beside me in
Mm-hmm.
shorts and a t-shirt, and he wasn't cold at all. And then we went to an indoor pub for the next pint because I was just like, oh, can we please get inside somewhere? And we went in there, and then I was unseasonably warm. Could not regulate my temperature. This continued through the night. Getting back to the room, I was literally I think we went to bed. We were such wusses because we were all kind of wrecked. I was wrecked from work, and one of the other lads had worked. So we all kind of went to bed about 12:30. We weren't getting up till 10. And even though that was 9.5 hours, I was still waking like every 45 minutes or so, either too hot or too cold. Um, Blinding headache to the point where I think this might have been the first time I've ever noticed it in a significant way. Like my eyeballs hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I also had a lot of nausea that I thought was from the kind of like, do you know when you feel like you're warm and it's quite
Mm-hmm.
stuffy, and sometimes that can turn your stomach a little bit. So I wrote it all off as that, and kind of woke up the following morning, had a tiny bit of breakfast. My intention was when I came home on that Sunday was to record with you that night. Um, and that was still the plan. Came home, had the window down, was pumping water into me, and was feeling a little bit all right. Took a quick nap when I got home, and then I was going to go to Token, the popular bar arcade in Dublin that's actually closing in a couple of weeks.
Oh, is it?
It's closing on my birthday, which I'm trying not to
Ah.
take extremely personally. But yeah, I tried to get one last go in there. So myself and Emma went up to meet a friend of hers to go in. And I was starting to feel a little bit unwell on the way up, but I was like, maybe it's just sometimes when you haven't, because again, I had such a small breakfast. Sometimes when you haven't eaten for a while, you feel a little bit but then the first bite of food and you're like, yeah, okay, there's
Mm-hmm.
the appetite. So I was like, maybe that's it. And then I hopped on the Lewis, our light rail tram system. And after 20 minutes on the Lewis, I was feeling like dirt, right back to all those symptoms from the previous night. I was walking over to a bookshop. I love Hodges Figgis on
Mm-hmm.
Dawson Street in Dublin. I said maybe the walk will do me good, the fresh air, and I'll see how I feel. And my condition worsened on that 10-minute walk to the point where I went from maybe I'll just have something small and sit with the guys as they're having their food, and do some arcade games, to by the time I got to Hodges Figgis, it was like I need to actually go home right now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not messing about. I have to go home. Something bad is happening here. So I got the train home. I was home within an hour. And then I rang KDOC, which is like our out of hours
Mm-hmm.
clinic in Kildare. Rang them, and they'll usually ask for some of your symptoms to see if it's like worth your while coming in, or if you're just kind of using up an appointment slot or whatever. And I said, this is what's going on. They're like, yeah, mate, you heat stroke. Like, there's nothing we can do. And it's so funny because, like, again, you were, as somebody who had heat stroke quite recently, as I was saying things that were wrong with me, you were like, yep, yep,
Yep.
yep. Whereas because I've never actually had it, like,
Yeah.
short of knowing it's you can't regulate your own temperature,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't acknowledging any of those things as being
Yeah.
heat strokes. I just thought I was off since the
Un- un-
previous day.
until I had it was either last year or the year before, for the first time, and like that. Until you've had it, you don't recognize. But like as you were talking about there, it's like, yeah, the Saturday evening, hot and cold, and you're kind of going, well, it's just that it's getting cold now at night, and oh, we're sitting outside, and oh, well, maybe the nausea is just after having a drink or two, or maybe I didn't eat enough, or
Yeah,
I've eaten too much, and you're in your head, you're going, yeah, maybe that's what it is, and going, sure, I'm drinking loads of water, sure, it couldn't be heat stroke, it's heat stroke,
yeah,
yeah,
it's heat stroke, 100%. So I spent 2 days trying to get over that, and then as that was subsiding, the symptoms of that being relieved pointed out to another ailment, and that was that I've clearly done something to my back when I was doing the water on Saturday.
mm-hmm.
So it was like for every 20% my symptoms reduced of the heat stroke, my back pain went up by about that much because it's like the body was like, oh yeah, remember this, you fucking idiot. So I'm thinking this is from bending down and picking up the tanks of water, and from bending down to fill up from the trough to refill the cups. And it's really kind of central to the back, and I'm not somebody that's used to back pain either. So that's what's delayed it the last couple of nights, because we were going to do Sunday, or we were going to do Saturday, we were going to do Friday, then we were going to do Sunday, and then we were going to do Monday, and all of those had to be abandoned.
Mm-hmm.
Um, And yeah, here we are now. And if you're hearing this, it means we successfully got it recorded. I'm still like hedging that like I'll like fucking slip a disc or the ceiling will cave in or something like that before we actually get to talk a bit about WCW. People have suggested in the Discord over on our channel on the Voice of Wrestling Discord that as soon is it coincidental that as soon as we get to a profoundly cursed period of WCW booking that like our bodies start falling apart. Um, and look, I hadn't thought about it, but you know what? I feel like we just invoked the gods of the curse again, Lee. Because just as we got done explaining the curse, you got a big warning that your hard drive was full and we had to stop recording for a few minutes.
I'm not even joking. As you were talking about the course, I'm looking at my computer going, no, this can't be. No, like, seriously.
And I'm so mad, and I haven't even talked about Vince Russo yet.
I tell you, this is
Ah,
what else can go? Like, I'm not even going to tempt right now. Just let's fucking
what
start
else
plugging
can go
something.
wrong? The next 2 years of World Championship Wrestling is what can go wrong, Lee.
Actually, speaking of which, you sent me
Yes.
a message today
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
angered me terribly
Yeah. Yeah.
because you said you were listening to the latest Dave and Brian episodes.
Yeah. So, well, I was listening to a few things.
Okay.
I was kind of on a YouTube rabbit hole as I was trying to very pathetically amble my way around the house and do a couple of things with a
Mm-hmm.
sore back. And the first one was, God, I wish I'd written down what video it was, but it was someone, I think it might have been one of those channels like WrestlePod or something like that, that was just going through some of do you know, and it was shared, something like it was shared in our Discord not long ago about the kind of details of who was earning what in WCW in this kind of period.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave you some of is this specifically what was making you mad? What
No,
some people were earning?
that didn't really anger me.
Okay,
Like
well, I go through it anyway because
yeah, there was a couple that was just like that's ridiculous, but yeah, it didn't anger me.
I did say that some of the numbers I read in terms of, or some of the numbers I heard in terms of what people were getting paid made me feel more sick than when I had heat stroke. Um, so Hacksaw was on, I think it was 187K
Yeah,
in this period. The only thing I would say is of this list, I begrudge him the least because he just beat cancer, and I think people that beat cancer should get six-figure
yeah,
salaries
that's
regardless.
true. Yeah,
Um, Barry Windham during the West Texas Rednecks era, $358,000 a year.
now
Like,
to be
what
fair,
is this?
I did say to you, like, to be fair, he worked hard for at least 2 or 3 months.
This was definitely a man who was given a salary based on who he was rather than who he is at
Yes.
this period of time. This is for sure. The one that I thought was like, much as I love him now and have loved him at various points in his career, I don't want anyone to think I don't love Big Dustin. But Dustin Rhodes, spooky window pedophile in 1999, he was signed for a 50K signing bonus.
Mm.
And then in his 3 years, 99, 2000, and 2001, that he was under contract to Time Warner, he earned 500,000, then 600,000, and then $700,000. Bear in mind that given that WCW shut in March, he just got to sit out that whole time.
Mm-hmm.
There was no chance of him having to wrestle for the rest of the year, and he
And
earned
he
seven hundred
he
thousand
was back
dollars.
in the Rumble in 2002.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So
oh,
get to the bit that you were mad about.
yeah. So you said that Dave and Brian were talking about the new Who Killed WCW documentary series.
Yeah, the Vice released like a 15-minute preview of the pilot.
Okay, so look, we know there's going to be some amount of bullshit involved in this.
Yeah, and it will
Um,
have the first episode will have aired by the time this show is up because
oh,
it's due to be out the 9th of June 4th.
okay. So two things you said that were just unbelievable to me. First of all, the two people that were most believable on the show are the clips that Dave saw, where Medusa, dude, look,
Which fair enough.
I don't doubt her truth.
Yeah.
But then one Conan
Yeah.
being the second most truthful person on a documentary,
Yeah.
you've really got to start looking at who was involved in this then.
You got to think,
Because
is this more a reflection on Conan or on the other people that were being interviewed? Like how much of a piece of shit pack of liars they have?
yeah.
Because we know Russo's interviewed.
Mm-hmm.
We know Bischoff is interviewed.
Yes.
They didn't get into who. Well, they said DDP was. They mentioned DDP and that he just seemed really sad. And Goldberg was interviewed as well.
Okay.
And that Goldberg seems to solely blame Vince Russo.
That's interesting.
Which Dave says is not inaccurate, but is also unfair because yes, it is Vince Russo, but it's not just Vince Russo's fault.
That's interesting that he solely blames Russo of all people.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
that's probably more got to do with his own booking. But I mean, like
yeah.
nobody post 2000 booked him well, or
Yeah, well, this
post
is,
99.
but yeah, because that's what I was thinking is like the bloom came off the rose with Goldberg during Kevin Nash, as we have
Mm-hmm.
documented over the last year. So that was
But
surprising.
the thing that absolutely pissed me off is that you said Eric Bischoff was apparently saying some
Yeah,
crazy shit,
yeah,
including that he had no idea what WCW was before they hired him.
yeah,
Now,
yeah. Now, what Brian tried to play devil's advocate and say maybe what he meant was before he worked in the AWA, he didn't know who WCW was,
but that's not what he
and
said.
that's exactly what Dave said. Dave goes, but that's not what he said. And he goes, yes, I know that's not what he said, but maybe that's what he meant. He goes, yes, but that's not what he said.
But then
And
say
I
what you
guess
fucking mean.
to Brian's point as well, or no, sorry, to Brian's point, to Dave's point, if that's what he said, but he didn't mean it, like it's not a live documentary. Like they could have redone the talking head bit. He goes, oh, I misspoke. I'll say it. And he didn't. Like that's the bit that made the final edit. Um
like at that point, like as I said to you, like at that point, you may as well just go, okay, cut. Thanks, Eric. We don't need you anymore. We know you're full of shit.
yeah. Although to be fair, if I was making the documentary, I'd be like, well, if that's what he's saying early doors, like he's gonna give us fucking solid gold lumps of
Oh yeah,
shit.
yeah. Look,
He's gonna
like
hang himself.
if you're a fucking documentary maker, you're going, my God, what won't this fucking idiot say?
Yeah.
Like, like how in 2024 is anybody taking what Eric Bischoff says fucking seriously?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolute failure of a man. Like,
he failed
and
in
he
WCW. He failed in WWE,
yeah.
except when he was an on-screen
And look,
character.
there are ways, and for a period of time, he was incredibly successful with WCW, and you cannot take that away from him. Yes, like he may have cribbed, everybody always says he cribbed the invasion angle from New Japan.
Mm-hmm.
He cribbed certain elements of presentation from Antonio Pena.
Mm-hmm.
But even if he did that, he did them on a way bigger and way more successful scale than either of them financially. So for that period of time, you can't take away that that was a success. But I would counter by saying the true mark of success of a business and a businessman is making the business a healthy and sustainable, growing and profitable company, and he didn't. The thing went supernova, as we've often said, for a brief period of time. World Championship Wrestling was the most profitable wrestling company in the history of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And then within 3 years, they were closed.
Until it wasn't, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, fucking just Yeah, I mean, you said it, just an absolute failure. Like, despite his success, he is more of a failure than he is a success, and it just angers me that people like Bischoff are still taken seriously by a section of fans because, oh well, he's the mastermind behind a fucking an 18-month run. Like 18
Yeah.
months, fucking 20, 30 years ago at this point.
If he and other people like the Cornets or whoever else of the world were as infallible and brilliant about the business as they claim they are, they would still have jobs in it.
Yes.
Because the likes of Tony Khan or the likes of Triple H or the likes of Vince McMahon before, all the many crimes, the thing about them is they're incredibly egotistical people. You kind of have to be so successful. It is a ruthless business. But if there is some way, someone out there who can earn them even more money, there's almost nobody, particularly WWE, wouldn't be willing to work with
Mm-hmm.
in order to make more money than they're already making. Like you see the amount of times that there are people Vince and Co. swore off ever working with, that as soon as there was a hint of like squeezing some money, they went back on that straight away.
The ultimate example being the Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah.
But like, and I'm not giving him credit, but like Jim Cornette, right? Absolute fucking piece of shit, and his opinions just aren't fucking worth having or listening to. But he has some value because his historical knowledge of the business is fucking top tier.
If he stayed in his lane as a historian, I think
Mm-hmm.
he has a huge amount of value to offer.
Yeah.
And I think, to me, I think his brain would be well, if he was to have a role in the business now, I think he would be a brilliant agent and a brilliant finish guy.
Do you know what, like, I think like the ideal situation would be something like getting JR and Jim Cornette to do, like, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a fucking an episodical show together where they just talk wrestling history. Like,
Let him start making documentaries,
yeah.
you know? Yeah, 100%. He's a great custodian of wrestling history because as much as I have personal dislike for the man and a lot of his
Mm-hmm.
views, and I fully believe the business has passed him by in a creative sense,
100%.
I do think, like, we talk about who killed WCW, but I do think his inputs into Dark Side of the Ring are consistently the most valuable of any of the talking heads.
They absolutely are. And that's what
And
actually
like
I was
Dave is
watching a
great
couple of
on them as well.
episodes. Mm.
Dave is great on them as well, but Dave offers the historical context, but Jim offers the historical context, and also usually whoever he's talking about was like a friend or a coworker.
Yeah. Like, I've kind of dug more into this series with Dark Side of the Ring because
It was a
I
pretty good
find
series, wasn't it?
it's been a pretty good series because I think it's not as, I don't mean this in a bad way, like it is called Dark Side of the Ring, but it's not as dour as previous
Yeah.
seasons. So
Yeah,
like,
like the John Tenta one is a pretty like obviously he died young and that's sad, but like there was no he was also a monster element to it that a lot of the other ones have.
but like the Harley Race one I watched recently, a day or two ago,
Great episode.
and it's such a great episode because it's just, here's a historical bio of Harley Race,
Yeah.
and that's where, like I say, that's where Cornette has value. That's where JR has value. Um, but yeah, that I just wanted to bring that up because look, this Who Killed WCW documentary is going to get a lot of press. It's going to get a lot of fucking people talking about it, and really, I mean, what we like, we may learn one or two things, and that'll be great.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned that they're going to have Stu Schneider and
Brad Siegel.
Brad Siegel interviewed, which is that's really like, that's something new. And if you've ever listened to Between the Sheets, they did a great series on their Patreon all about the sale, and they came to the conclusion that it was kind of like a well arranged kind of thing between Schneider and Siegel that, look, we're not going to sell to anybody else but you guys, because they went to college together apparently.
It's also worth saying as a companion piece, speaking of the Laps fan, they have announced that they're going to do an episode by episode breakdown with Guy Evans, who wrote the Nitro book.
He did. He
So
also wrote Eric Bischoff's most recent book as well. So
yes, so interesting perspectives. I mean, just from the TLF guys alone, like whatever about Guy Evans, I want to hear those
uh,
guys.
I've never been a TLF guy, and I tried to dip into it this week because I was looking for something different to listen to. I had to
Yeah.
turn it off within 20 minutes. Couldn't do it.
Oh,
I
you're
don't
not a
know.
big guy?
I didn't get it.
You should try go for the if there's a series they've done in the last couple of years that might tempt you in, it's the Total Nonstop Hogan, where they cover his
Okay.
TNA run.
See, I put on the Mid South one.
Yeah.
Or not the Mid South, the WCCW, the Von Erichs
Yeah.
one. So I started with 82, and
Yeah.
I think I've lasted like 30 minutes max because they just never actually started talking about the subject at hand. And
The trial of his life as well, the multi-part Vince McMahon steroid trial series was really good as well. I like the guys. I like the guys. Um, anyway, that's I
speaking of
suppose
things you
enough.
like, let's start talking about Nitro.
Man, I'm feeling it already.
that heat coming back to you, is it?
I'll tell you, I've got heat. I'll tell you, this is so much, Lee.
There's so much
This
happens.
is this is the thing that like I became very aware of during this show is that even if all this was good, which it is not, how long could this be sustainable without burning out the audience anyway?
Can I say?
Yeah.
I didn't hate this episode, but I also think that a lot of it was bad.
Yeah.
But nothing lasts any amount of time.
No.
So you don't get to dwell on it. And like you say, you cannot sustain an audience that way.
It's car crash TV. It's bad, but it's eminently watchable.
Yes.
And part of it is that pacing, like you said, nothing is long enough for like by the time you're trying to process why you're mad about this thing, 4 things have happened since that thought. And it keeps you moving along too quickly, but then obviously over time it keeps you moving along too quickly to care.
Before we break down the episode, can I talk about like some broader points on the episode?
Yeah. Also, I wanted to ask you, do you want to do the your over under and how many segments there were first or at the end?
We'll do it before, and we'll
Okay.
give for anyone that hasn't yet watched the episode. There had to be like 30 odd segments. I'm going to say like 31.
I'm going to be kind and not count the 2 WCW toy ads that happened in the first hour. There were 48 segments on this show.
Jesus Christ.
Not including the title sequence.
What was the runtime?
So that
on
would
the
be
episode?
49.
It was like 2 hours 20. Wasn't it?
It's 2 hours 40 something.
Was it 40?
Is usually what the 3-hour shows are. I think.
Oh yeah, because they had a 15-minute overrun as well. It wasn't just 3 hours. But before we like the episode, I want to say I do think Russo had the right idea with who he featured. Like if you watch the show, Goldberg is everywhere. Now, do I think he's trying to make Goldberg into Steve Austin? Yes. He heavily featured Sting and was kind of given to Sting, like Sting coming out without the face paint at the beginning of the show.
The thing is, he's trying to turn everyone into Steve Austin.
Well,
because that's also what they're doing with Hogan. Like we read that's the plan with Hogan.
But that plan was pre-Russo though.
Yes, true. And now, with Sting trying to be, makeup free and
real,
everybody's cutting shoot promos and talking about kicking ass and stuff.
But like Sting was heavily featured. Like as much as they're not taking shit seriously, which is something we will talk about. I do think getting the outsiders back on TV together is should have been a positive thing. It isn't, but it should have been. And like featuring them in a feud with Goldberg, but everybody's feuding with Goldberg. Um, so like I think he had some of the right ideas. It's just how he it's the
Here's a
stuff in
question for you.
between.
Here's a question for you. How much do you believe that who he was pushing and who he wasn't was down to what he thought was best for WCW? And how much of it do you think was it him reading the lie of the land? And if he took power away from some people and pushed some other people up the card to him, it would tighten his grip on control there. Because he's immediately trying to break the company of reliance on Hogan and Flair in particular.
Mm.
And then he's trying to push a lot of people,
Who are
certain
popular
people
backstage.
who are popular backstage up the card, who will obviously be so thankful to Vince and Ed. It's just something I think that like he certainly will never admit to, but I think is an underappreciated
So you,
talking point that I think
you
that there was a certain element of self-serving in there, as well as like I'm sure, like again, one thing I'm very sure of is that he thinks he's brilliant. So
mm.
I don't think he was purely doing it for his own benefit, but I do think it factored in.
So you think, for example, right, Goldberg, Sting, the Outsiders, Sid, like they're the undeniable main eventers, say, and
Yeah,
but they're the main eventers that he's chosen ahead of Flair and
yeah.
Hogan.
He's sent some shaky ground under Hogan because
Yeah,
Hogan has kind of lost some
he's lost the locker
favor.
room. Yeah,
Yeah. And similar with Flair, like
uh
Flair's
huh.
been in and out with the company for a couple of years. Here's a time. It's like when it's like, we're both big football fans. When a new manager comes in and sees the opportunity that like some managers will like a Jose approach,
Mm-hmm.
will right, here's the fucking biggest dog in the yard. Let's
I'm
fuck
gonna
him
take
out.
him on. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And I'll show everybody who's boss. Like he
yeah,
comes in, first thing he does, Hogan and Flair out the door. Now who's boss?
yeah. And like I can see that, and like obviously Jeff Jarrett is his long term guy, and that's pretty obvious. But do you think then, like, say your Buff Bagwells, your Conans, your Kidmans, they're the guys that he's pushing now that are the popular guys in the locker room? Say
Yeah.
your Discos again, another guy that was insanely popular in the back. Is that what you think? You think like he said like, right, these are my main event crew, and I kind of have to push these for reasons that are beyond my control. But here's these guys that are popular backstage that I'm going to give a shove to.
I think there's an element to which there are some of them, like Kidman, who are incredibly talented. And Goldberg, obviously, who's a huge star, who it's never going to blow up in your face to push them up the card.
Hmm.
But I also think there are some people who maybe Conan is one of them, and definitely Disco is one of them, who it's more that they're popular in the back than they're ever going to sell a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And it just works very well for him to curry favor to go, here's guys that were never getting above a certain level with Bischoff, and I'm going to prove a point that I'm not Bischoff,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to be Mr. Popular.
Yeah, that's an interesting theory, and yeah, I don't recall anyone ever looking at it from that aspect, but I can totally see where you're coming from. Um, but yeah, instead of doing the broad points, let's get into the actual show itself.
Okay, well, this is Nitro episode 214 for Phoenix, Arizona. 25th of October 1999. This is a 3.5 rating. We are up point 0.2 from the
Hmm.
Russo debut. So there is that to say. We have got a cold open on a makeup free white tee and jeans Stinger, real estate Steve, throwing around things backstage looking for JJ Dillon. Fucking remember JJ Dillon? Yeah, this is the first mention of him in what feels like fucking months. Sting is in the ring with a microphone. Tony says, this is a version of Sting we haven't seen in a long time. He says, JJ, I'm hearing a lot of talk in the dressing room I don't like, and you shouldn't either. Last night all he came out for was a fight. You'll recall, Lee, that there was massive confusion at the end of Halloween Havoc because
Hmm.
it was a title match, it wasn't a title match, it was a title match. So this is a very speedy attempt to either retcon or explain what the fuck they were trying to do at the end of that pay-per-view. The crowd are chanting Goldberg. He calls out JJ. I appreciate that the first crowd sign that I saw on this Nitro was a WCW where chumps wrestle sign, which was prominent throughout.
There was
So
also a massive WCW sucks sign on the hard cam.
I know WWF were always good at getting WCW signs if they were caught on hard cam, they
Hmm.
wouldn't be caught twice. WCW did not have that kind of quality control in the crowd.
No.
Um, Sting says to JJ that last night he wanted to wrestle Goldberg to what becomes the catchphrase of the night, bail WCW out of a bad situation without ever referring to what happened with Hogan on the
Hmm.
show, which I thought was extraordinarily weird. That
Well,
like they keep alluding to the Hogan thing, but
but
not actually talking in great substance about it.
but again, this is now the second week in a row where Russo has written the show and he does not want to talk about Hulk Hogan.
Yeah. But I would have thought, like, especially given, we're what, like 8, 9 months away from Bash at the Beach where he can't fucking stop bad mouthing Hogan. Seeing as he wants to discredit Hogan, I would have thought that he wouldn't have mind mentioning what a fucking horrible fucking mess that whole thing was.
This was
But
obviously, the whole you can't. Wasn't it in Hogan's contract that he couldn't be disparaged on air? Wasn't that one of the
possibly, yeah.
things?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So maybe that's what it was. He was billed to defend against Goldberg, but he never said anything about the title. So he wants the title back now. JJ says Goldberg won, but it was not sanctioned. So Goldberg is not the champion. And Sting celebrates, but he goes, but neither are you. JJ, in what I think is the fourth different way people have said this in a week, the powers to be have
Hmm.
determined he is to be stripped for laying his hands on a ref. You have to wonder if they spent the 24 hours going, how can we do this? Thank God he attacked Charles Robinson, or
Like
whether this was always the idea.
they couldn't have just said, well, you were the world champion, but you were also pinned clean, so we're going to strip you of the title because we don't feel
Yeah,
you're
he
worthy of
fucking
being champion.
embarrassed us.
Yeah.
They're starting a 32-man tournament tonight and are throwing Sting a bone and putting him in. He says, if you're just a messenger, tell them this. And he lays him out and puts him in a deathlock. Goldberg out to a huge reaction for a pull apart brawl. And we have our show starting. Tony
Is,
and
is
Brain recap. Sorry.
is it only me that heard it's a deadly game in their heads?
Yeah. Yeah. God. Remember we covered that on the Patreon?
Because if there's one thing
That
Vince
was a
Russo
time.
loves, it's booking the deadly game tournaments
I could zero notice.
with the exact same
Um,
swerves.
yeah. Tony and Brain recap the main event, and Tony pretends he knew all along what was going on, even though obviously we had just watched this days after watching Halloween Havoc, and we remember
Hmm.
the profound confusion. So Tony runs down the groups for the tournament, which we're not going to do now. We'll go to them as we get to them. The outsiders arrive with a beer cooler and are told they'll be wrestling. They don't care. You gotta love how, like, the outsiders, who are massive baby faces to the crowd here, Russo has decided that their gimmick is they don't give a fuck about WCW, but not in a cool NWO way, more like they're paying us millions of dollars to fuck about sort of way.
We're, we're obligated to show up. We don't have to do shit.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, Kevin
yeah.
actually even thinks says it on air. He's like, I'm retired. I booked myself to be retired.
Yeah. Unbelievable stuff. We get two commercials here, one for WCW grip and flip wrestlers, the ones with the magnet fists. And then we also get electronic thumb wrestling. I think I had a grip and flip wrestler at one stage. I never did the electronic thumb wrestling. This might be the first time I recall seeing this because all the American commercials would have been cut out on the version of TNT we had here.
Mm-hmm.
So that was interesting to me. New Year's Evil, so that's where NXT stole that from. And Electronic Arts present Match of the Week, which was last week's tag title change, which was not Match of the Week. I'm sorry. It was a fucking mess. Tenay had there was oh my god, Mike Tenay was all over the show like a rash from backstage, although he didn't seem to move for 3 hours because it was always in the exact same spot.
Yeah, the exact same locker room. Yeah.
He's interviewing Norman Smiley. Tonight is the night to show that he is a technical marvel and tougher than a $2 steak. I will say in that list of people that Russo is like, oh, I'm absolutely pushing him. Norman Smiley is an unusual one. And I know it had started a little towards the end of
The
Nash
Nash
and
run.
the little kind of booking committee then that kind of when
Mm-hmm.
Nash was de-emphasized. Still a weird one. I love Norman Smiley. I'm going to go on to be tremendously entertained by him for the next while, but it is
Mm-hmm.
like it kind of sticks out with a lot of the rest of them because he is quite a few years older than a lot of the people he's pushing as well.
And
Anyway,
you can't even put it down to something that Russo had done in WWF because Crash Holly wasn't under Russo. Crash Holly was 2000 WWF.
mm,
So you can't even
yeah.
make the comparison. So this is, for all intents and purposes, a original idea that Russo has had here for Norman, the reluctant hardcore hero.
We get our first title tournament, Group One, first round match. Bam Bam Bigelow versus Norman Smiley. Bam Bam runs out, encouraging roadies to follow him out with a plunder dumpster. Is it just me, or when he was sprinting out and telling them to come with him, did you get the feeling that they were already running long and had to make up time?
Oh,
Just the way he was like, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. It was just like, oh man, they're running up to the commercial and they need to
they
get some shit done.
cannot be running fucking short already.
Uh, Bama, yeah. So Bam Bam's out. Smiley comes out and he's like, nope, 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 nope. Bam Bam says he's challenging him to a hardcore match. This is brilliant. Like one match into this tournament and people can just make the rules up.
Yep.
It's all House of Black rules in this tournament. It's fucking insane. Norman begging off into the corner, hiding behind Nick Patrick, which is a little bit funny. Bell rings and Bam Bam hits him with a broom, trash can lid to the bonce. He begs off, trash can to the head, and then over the head. Uh, Bam Bam in the most comically bad sell of his entire career. God bless him. We love the man, but this was bad. He accidentally walks into a trash can headbutt. Shibata and Jericho, this was not.
No, it wasn't.
Shibata did an infinitely better man trapped in a trash can spot.
Just
Um,
think about that sentence.
yeah, I know. Um, so trash can headbutt, and then Norman falls. Norman and the can fall on him. Big wiggle, and Norman just wins. And then before you can even inhale, cut immediately to the outsiders.
To quote one Brian Alvarez, to the back.
Oh, there's so much to the back on this show. Fuck me, there's so much to the back. Um, Yeah, it's the outsiders bitching about being forced back into the ring. This is what you were kind of saying, Lee. They don't give a shit. Kevin Nash says he booked himself into retirement.
Mhm.
The two of them flirt with each other a bit, where he's like,
I
"Oh, I'm gonna
did find
pinch you
that
so
funny, to be
hard."
fair.
That was pretty good. Look, this is the thing. It's detrimental to the company, but they're very funny sometimes. These
I
guys.
think it was not, they're talking about having a match, and Nash is like, I'll kick you in the shin. And Scott replies
I'm
with,
pinch
I'll
you so
pinch you
hard.
so hard.
Yeah. So then
Oh, I miss Scott Hall.
Tony poorly attempts to recap the filthy animals and Flair beef, interspersed with clips. And then we get an iconic Nitro moment, but not even the Nitro moment that we made this show for. Still, the animals and their music are here. They immediately throw to the desert.
Yep.
And yes, this is the famous Ric Flair being buried in the desert. I think in hindsight, right? Like it's bad. Okay. It's
Hmm.
bad. It's an all-time bad angle. Them taking Ric Flair to the desert and burying him. Quite a literal crime. But I also think they they pansied out of this and they did it half-assed.
Yeah, they
Because
did. Like,
if you're gonna bury Ric Flair in the desert, I need some Wile E. Coyote shit where like all you see is two upturned boots with RF on them, or like
like
he's buried up to his neck.
yeah, but see, this is the thing. Like in my head, I was like, oh, he's buried in the desert. Like they bury him
Yeah.
because
I
I've
think that's what
seen
everyone thinks because that's what everyone calls it. Ric Flair gets buried in the desert, but they just throw him on the ground and kick dirt on him.
because I've seen the bit where they kick dirt on him. I'm like, well, no, that happens separately. There is another time where no, this is
Yeah.
it. They literally put him on the
But
ground and go, get him, and they kick dirt at him.
is it just that people think like he gets buried in the desert, but what they actually mean is they bury him while in the desert?
That's probably
Because it's
more
Ric
accurate.
Flair getting buried metaphorically while in the
Yes.
desert. Um, yeah. Now, here's the thing. Conan's look here is great. He looks like a fucking ivory dealer, and it's fabulous in this segment. That's great. Saturn and Malenko run out when they throw back from the clip. Um, they have like bits of metal that they've just picked up and beat the filthy animals down. Tori slowly walks backward into Shane Douglas and Asia, who kidnap her. And this is to be a show running arc. This is the second show long kidnap plot that Tori has been involved in her run because you may recall
Oh no, that was
uh
Samantha.
it was Samantha, yeah, completely different person. She was one of the people. Who was it that got kidnapped that time?
Uh, that was
It wasn't
Samantha and
her.
George, wasn't it?
It was George that got kidnapped. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
George that got kidnapped. And Nash was like on the phone with Randy Savage when he's freaking out in a phone booth, getting a massage from Samantha.
Yes, that's what it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah. So this is her second. Now the shoe is on the other foot and she's abducted. How do you like it now, eh? Yeah, and Asia, who is now is this officially like she hadn't been with the revolution before, had she?
Oh,
Like this is just it now. She's just with the revolution, I guess.
it's just Shane Douglas took everything else from Ric Flair apparently, so he decided to take Asia.
Yeah. To the back. Um, straight to business there. Yeah, I guess. So this is Kurt
Pretending.
Hennig. Yeah. There's an interesting development with the powers, he says. They say if Kurt gets pinned, he is gone for good, but that's his call. You tell me I can't, I tell you I can. So basically what it said is the powers that be, which is so again, because once again on this show, they later go on to mention Vince and Ed Ferrara again,
Yes.
even though they're trying to make it a mystery who they are,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Here's the thing: are we supposed to believe that the powers to be are not Ferrara and Russo?
I
Because
don't
they're
know. No, because they keep saying that they're the writers, they're in charge.
yeah, but the powers to be are the people in charge.
Yeah. Uh, man, I don't know, but I love that immediately. Like Kurt Hennig is laughing at these guys having power because he's like, "Oh, they're telling me if I get pinned, I have to go, but like I'm not gonna."
And they hear this.
So
Yeah.
yeah. The hungover outsiders try to have some coffee to sober up for their match later. I do appreciate their gag about wondering. It makes much more sense later for them saying, "Is this live broadcast on a 3 or 7 second delay?" Um, Singles match: Lash LaRue versus Kurt Hennig. Uh, as if the career stuff wasn't enough booking involved in this match, Disco in leopard print comes out immediately.
Yeah, like literally
Hennig,
the bell rings and this goes at ringside.
yeah. Um, Hennig beating on Lash in the ring. Lash posts, hits the head scissors, couple of drop kicks. He goes for the whiplash. Hennig slaps the ref in the face, DQ. Then he nails Lash with a chair. Disco comes in to get Lash, and maybe my favorite part of the whole thing, Hennig just goes, "Ah, fuck you," and hits him with a chair as well.
Is it just me, or did like Kurt Hennig pretty much eat up Lash LaRue in this match?
Yeah, and it was only like 45 seconds to a minute long, I think. The actual
But that
match.
the story they apparently are telling is that Disco respects Lash LaRue.
Yeah, that he's earned Disco's respect, but like
You,
Disco isn't the crafty ring veteran like Hennig is in this match.
you know where this is leading, Dave, don't you?
Uh-huh. But it's funny because this is like Lash gets beaten last night and Lash gets like looked like an idiot and secondary in this angle. But we know where things go, and Lash is one of the people that they want to book
Mm-hmm.
well. And I'm like, this is booking him. I look, Anyway, we get
Look,
two back.
Lash and Disco are going to be paired together for many months. That's all I'm going to
Yeah,
say.
yeah. We get to the back to back here, as firstly
Yeah.
the animals are in pursuit backstage, and then Bret Hart limps out of his car while Goldberg laces his boots in the locker room. Um, the Nitro girls are back, I
Doing another
guess,
search.
but they're not on the show at all.
No,
Like,
because they're characters now, Dave. They're not dancers.
yeah. Kimberly completely fucks up her promo putting over the Nitro Girl contest. We Okay, it's been a few days since I've seen this, so please tell me if this note makes sense to you. I'm sure it did to me at the time. We meet Lauren, who is dancing for a cartoon pimp in a leopard shirt. Because
No.
they look like they're on stage at like Zanies or something like that, or like the Chuckle Hut.
Oh,
And
that
there's
that
this dude standing on the side of the stage who looks like a cartoon pimp.
that's fucking Ricky Rackman.
Was it?
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't even reckon. It's been so long since fucking Club Lavelle. I'd forgotten.
he runs all that shit. All those like Nitro searches and shit. That was all
Fuck.
his going on.
Okay.
That's why he was employed.
The thing, or the Danielle is the other one this week. The thing is, I was like,
This week.
they can functionally do the dance moves that they're doing,
Yes.
but the choreography is fucking shocking. Like they're it's like it's the dance equivalent of just getting your shit in. Like none of the moves flow together in a piece of dance that makes sense. It's just how many individual dance moves can I do in 30 seconds?
So
It was horrible.
you've heard it here first. Lauren is the Brian Cage of Nitro Girls.
I've always said it. Um, they say call in to vote. Jeff Jarrett comes out to some horrific country jam.
Oh, it's so
This
bad.
is we still haven't gotten to chosen one yet, unfortunately. He takes the mic, says back up or he'll stroke every single one of you, and that means Kimberly too. What's brilliant is like they do this thing where and like they've basically alluded to it constantly since Jeff Jarrett showed up, the angle he was in when he left WWF.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's supposed to be a heightened sense of tension when Jeff Jarrett interrupts women. Um, and look, we'll talk more about that as time goes on. Um, he says the tournament is all a big work. Brilliant. That's exactly what you want to tell your fans. Says he's the chosen one, and there isn't a damn thing anyone can do about it, including Buff Bagwell, because that feud must continue. Says unless he wants to take the next Lex Express out of town, Luger must apologize to him. Says he didn't take Liz out. If he's got any problem, please speak to the powers that be. Fuck off.
Now, it's funny because all of the matches they showed early on in the show for the tournament, Jeff Jarrett was not in it.
Yeah. And well, that's because Jeff Jarrett is literally in multiple feuds right now. He's already feuding with both Buff and Package,
Mm-hmm.
both of whom are heels, and he is also a heel,
Well, Buff is kind of a heel or a face, depending on who he's facing.
or what he feels like.
Yeah.
Flashback to last night where Tony said he kept coming and coming and coming till he couldn't come anymore. So, that was a whole thing.
So Lois was happy.
Um, yeah. God bless Lois. Sid promo in black and white from after Halloween Havoc. This might have been one of the highlights of the show. Get to see a bit of Sid. So he doesn't give a damn about respect. He lost the battle, but he promises he'll win the war. He'll be back when Goldberg least expects it. So there you go. Unfortunately, that was your one dispatch from Sid. Our title tournament Group 1 first round match next up is Perry Saturn versus Eddie Guerrero. Saturn says if any of the other animals touch him, they never see Tori again. Just absolutely threatening to kill a woman on live television there.
Yeah, because
Uh,
the filthy animals all come out with Eddie.
yeah,
They have already abandoned their search for
yeah.
Tori.
It's like, oh, we really care about our friend and Kidman's girlfriend, but you know what? There's a match, a first round match to be had here that doesn't involve Kidman, but Kidman's going to come out anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, Eddie aggressive at the bell. About a minute in, smoke starts pouring out of a turnbuckle for no apparent reason. Did you see that?
Yes.
What the fuck was that about?
Spooky pedo fucking Dustin Rhodes or something like that.
Yeah. That must be it. Eddie nearly gets whipped into Bill Apter on the outside. And then Gormless idiot David Flair comes out, hits Eddie with a crowbar, Rings of Saturn for the win. And this is the thing, right? Is that we know what's going to happen with David Flair. And that David Flair is
Yes.
currently using a crowbar as his weapon.
Yes.
And he would later go on to use Crowbar the Man.
Yes. And yeah, his facial expression never
I
once changed.
I had forgotten, but that's kind of how we get to that.
Yeah, he imagined Crowbar. He made Crowbar real.
Yeah. Fucking like Crowbar is his Wilson the volleyball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember when Tom
Fucking
Hanks,
hell.
got off the island and met Wilson?
Gormless idiot Tom Hanks. I'd never say that about Tom Hanks. I'm sorry. Sorry, Tom Hanks. I love you. Saturn flees to the crowd before the animals manage to get him. Nash says he has a Jim Morrison plan. If there's no show, there's no match. He's going to strip naked, which gets a huge and very high shrill pop from the women in the crowd.
Which is funny because his most successful movie role would involve him stripping naked.
Indeed. His most successful one, apart from being that the bouncer in John Wick,
Yeah, well.
obviously, or the guy dressed as fucking Where's Waldo in the Punisher movie. Um,
Actually, Connor mentioned that to me not too long ago. Connor was like, "Did you know Kevin Nash is in Punisher?" I was like, "Yeah." Do you know he got stabbed with a real knife and didn't sell it?
oh
I was like, "Yes, I am
man,
well
Nash
aware."
still working the kids.
Yeah.
Um, so the Revolution are there with their hostage and says this random storage room in the back is a great hiding place. Dean goes to take a leak. Benoit attacks him immediately with a chair and padlocks the Revolution in. It's such a like dumb heel thing that they said this is a great hiding place, and then they're immediately found by somebody, but not the people that are looking for Tori, so it doesn't help her. Throws Dean around some boxes and hits him with another chair shot.
Can I ask a
Um,
question about this? I don't really care about Malenko and Benoit's little fucking brawl into the perfectly placed boxes once again. Um,
so it's not going to be as funny as the fucking mummy.
so this Revolution and Filthy Animals feud.
Is your
So
question who gives a bollocks?
no. It's more pertinent than that. Are we supposed to cheer for the people that left the man for dead in the desert and mugged them 6 days previously to that? Or are we supposed to cheer for the people that kidnapped a beautiful young woman?
Yeah,
Just
I got
any
nothing for
ideas?
you. Potential murderers, potential kidnappers. No, actual kidnappers.
No,
We
I
don't
mean
know if
actual
Flair is dead, but
kidnappers.
we do know they've kidnapped a woman.
Well, we do
At
know they
least one
tried
woman.
to kill him.
Yeah. They certainly would prefer if he wasn't alive.
So, I mean, who's the good guys in this one? Is it Shades of Grey?
Yeah, shades of grey. Anyway, here come the outsiders. Scott rambles for a bit about the writers from up north, for fuck's sake. Says Big Kev has a message for the bigwigs at TNT. Goldberg calls them out from the crowd. Said that his fucking traps were flared something fierce during this.
Hmm?
Says, if you want to screw with me, I hope you got eyes in the back of your head because no matter what, tonight, both of you are next, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
Um, okay, take your traditional take your drink, as Tony says. We're currently off format as fucking Macho Man and Gorgeous George return, all draped in red, looking like $1 million, to be fair.
I have to
Um,
say, Macho Man out discoing disco was
mm.
quite the look.
And I was just like, holy shit. Like, because again, remember we were reading in the Observer, and it's like the company were very ready to move on from Match, and then they were talking about bringing him back, and then things went quiet. And you
Well,
maybe, if you're a first time viewer, you would have thought, okay, in the spirit of Russo getting rid of all the old guys, you would have thought, right, he's already off TV. Why bring him back?
to be fair, if you listen to this promo, it sounds like Macho was very much over being in WCW at this point as well.
Yeah, they brought him back to do a fucking shoot promo. He says, Vince Russo and all you vultures out here hoping I hang myself on the mic. Not today, not tomorrow, but I am well hung. You can't what is it? You can't run him out of town like Flair and Hogan because he's not a punk bitch. The yellow and red has played itself out, which is really funny because like Hogan and Savage have long since fallen out at this point.
Yes.
So Savage has just taken his opportunity. Is like, the company maybe can't slag off Hogan, but I'm sure gonna. So call him a
What's
punk bitch,
Hogan going to
saying,
do about it if Macho says it, basically?
yeah, yeah, big fucking coward. The yellow and red has played itself out. So has Space Mountain. Uh, but he's been better than the best for a long period of time and has too much money to be punked out. He says he has won titles in the WWF. Love when you mention the number one company and remind people there's something else they could be doing tonight. It's time to pass the torch. That person is not only going to win titles, but have record breaking ratings. You need me. The bullets are out of your gun. They're leaving the building. So that's it. Just the tease. And now I'm not going to hold my breath
I don't
for
think this
this to
goes
pay off in
anywhere.
a satisfactory way because, as we remember, one of the last times Randy shows up, he promises about 4 to 5 things and immediately forgets half of them.
I
Um,
genuinely do not think this goes anywhere.
I can't remember it going anywhere, so I'm not inclined to look it up. I can't wait to read the Observer on our next Thunder episode to see where Dave thinks it's going or what he thinks of it, but we'll see anyway. So we go to the back to back to back. This time, Filthy Animals clearly watching the show um instead of running around, have used watching the show to figure out where Tori was.
Yes.
But they're gone from the location. Then we have Medusa warming up. Then Dean livid after getting attacked, and the Revolution say to relax. Then we get what is a surprise to the there was a mystery opponent wrestling Medusa uh in the bracket, and
But
the
hang on,
mystery opponent was Meng.
yes, before we get to Medusa Maying, did you not notice what shirt Perry Saturn was wearing in the back?
No, what did he say?
He was
What was
wearing
it?
an FTW shirt.
Was he?
He was.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
So, quality
Interesting.
control on this show is just fucking
Yeah.
top notch.
Um. So here's another running trope of Russo's man and woman violence.
Yes.
Now, what I will say is that I think in the position they were in, and especially I think like you put it in a particularly gross position because not only is it the man or woman violence thing, it's a man who has a particular rep of being an incredibly violent man. Right now, everybody
Yes.
says absolute sweetheart
Mm-hmm.
if he's your buddy in real life. So like you are supposed to feel like she is very unsafe during this. And I think the way, whether there was an agent, whether it was between Meng and Medusa, I think they did their best to try and get out of this by doing the bare minimum in terms of her getting beaten up by him.
I think this was so well put together. I like genuinely might be the
Yeah,
best match on the show.
it wasn't good either.
No, no,
Do
no,
you know what I
no.
mean? But I think it was the most yeah, I will say the most well thought out match of the whole show in terms of we've been fucking stuck with having to do this. how do we get out of this in a way that doesn't fucking embarrass everybody? And I think they did all right.
Like the whole match is Medusa being offense, on the offense and trying to hurt Meng, and Meng just no selling everything. He literally no sells everything, kind of
How
places her
unlike him.
places her up on the top rope. Like he doesn't slam her, he doesn't hit her. Like his only offensive move is the Tongan deck grip, which again is all about the selling. It's not actually.
Yeah. And the bell rings immediately, and unlike usual, he doesn't hold on to it for ages. He lets
Yes.
go pretty much straight away. I love Brain had a great line in here, trying to get over like how courageous Medusa was, because he
Mm-hmm.
goes, she's a beautiful woman, but some parts of her are brass. Um, without saying she's got fucking big balls on her.
Mm-hmm.
He's come as close as he can. Then in again a storyline I keep forgetting they did. Evan Courageous comes out to help her up.
Yep.
And I love this. A Brain absolutely buries this man deep beneath the earth. Tony goes, I didn't know Evan Courageous was here. Did you? And he goes, I never know where he is, and I don't care.
Is that Brains like Evan Courageous is so far below fucking Medusa at this point?
Yeah. And then again, I'm being charitable to Russo and not including this in the 48 segment count because the camera didn't cut and Dean Malenko came out immediately before the segment ended and calls out Benoit for a last man standing match tonight on no build.
Yes. Sans music. He just walks
Sans
out in his
music.
jeans. Yeah.
Outsiders backstage, still don't know who they're wrestling. And in another gag that makes much more sense when you find out what's happening later on, he goes, I don't care who it is, they're going to get licked. Um, Brett backstage. Now, here's the thing. I wrote, and it might have been just because I was typing at the time, was he getting ice on his knee?
Oh, I didn't. I thought it was taping up his ankle.
Okay, right, Grant. Okay. Because I wrote he got ice on his knee, and then when I looked at the match and he was selling the ankle, I was just like, hold on, it's very unlike Brett to be off on this. So I wanted to ask you. I wasn't going to rewind for an hour.
You did forget a segment. You skipped
Oh
over a
God.
segment.
Okay, so we are at 49 then.
You skipped over Kurt Hennig and BA backstage.
Oh, I think I completely missed this. Yeah, what happened?
Kurt Hennig and Brad Armstrong, World Police,
World Police.
are
Yeah.
backstage talking, and Brad is like, saying that the powers to be say he has no personality, and he needs to find a personality, and maybe he should ring up Baby Brother because you always have to allude to the
Oh
overact in the other company.
God.
And Henning and BA do this kind of nod and a wink. Well, you know what's going to happen.
Hmm. Fucking hell.
No, nobody knows what's going to happen, Dave.
We now get our next first round match, and it's God help us all, Rick Steiner versus the Total Package. Immediately, this segment starts off on a bad foot. They try to they completely mistime a throw to Stills from the Luger versus Brett match. I love that the build for Luger versus Steiner is all about Bret Hart because who could give a shit about Rick Steiner? Luger bull rushes Steiner and Jeff Jarrett immediately comes out.
Mm-hmm.
Rick makes a comeback as JJ I mean Double J. Sorry, I'd written JJ. Double J gets on commentary, saying he wants a public apology into the headset, not to Lex Luger. This is WCW. Why would I hit a woman? And Tony says, we saw your shtick in WWF. And he goes, isn't the WWF. This is WCW, and I am the chosen one. Yes, we are very aware this isn't the World Wrestling Federation. This is now is it the third or fourth
I think
time
that's
on
the
this
fourth
show
reference on the show.
to the World Wrestling Federation, the company that you're trying to make people either forget about or just watch you instead of. I would also think we're coming right up to the top, or we actually know. So Raw will be on the air at this stage.
Mm-hmm.
So all in the first hour, right up until when Raw comes on, you keep reminding them that Raw exists, basically. I would not be surprised if there's like a massive shift after the first hour,
It's
as I'm sure there often was.
um can we just say, like, this match doesn't go very long, but it's also dog shit.
Yeah. Uh-huh. He said his business clear up with Liz, so he walks over to Liz. She falls over and begs off. Lex confronts Jeff. Jeff swings the guitar and kills Rick with it, who gets right back up, killing the acoustic equalizer gimmick 2 weeks into Jeff Jarrett's run.
Yeah, what a
Incredible.
piece of shit Rick Steiner is.
It's just like sell it for 5 seconds, dude. Like, come on. Luger checks on Liz at a count of eight. Luger realizes what's going on, pushes Liz over, which I thought that was funny. That
Oh, it was great.
like
Yeah, it was a great bit.
he's so concerned. Ooh, I might win. It drops her like a fucking hot snot, and then gets back in the ring and celebrates like he won the World
Gets the
Cup.
10 count and then hops out and apologizes to Liz.
Yeah, she's big mad. It was very funny.
I thought that was a very good bit. Yeah.
Yeah. To the back, and Conan, who refers to Tanay as Big Bad Mike, which made me laugh a lot. He's with Conan. He's mad. They're all mad. They want Tori back, essentially. Then we have Buff walking into the arena, cackling and talking to himself, saying he has it all figured out. Bet he doesn't. And then perhaps one of the most ominous things that only got more ominous with time is Benoit silently taping his fists. That's just, yeah. Oh, no, it was one of the times I can usually do the kind of like just analyze the segment that's going
Mm-hmm.
on. I was genuinely chilled to the bone watching that.
I didn't
It
write it
was
down,
not
so
great.
that'll tell you what I thought of them.
Yeah. Our next match, because obviously, if the animals don't have Anton on tonight to be worrying about, there definitely hasn't been like a high profile abduction of one of their girlfriends on this show. They're just going to pop out for another first round match that pits two of them against each other, one of whom is said boyfriend Kidman. It's Kidman versus Conan.
Yep.
Kidman bumps the ref. It has to have been inside the first 30 seconds. And then Harlem Heat come out and kill both of them dead. Like, what the fuck is this? This is like everything is so fucking overbooked to death. This is right. So a little bit on Nitro, a little bit on the pay-per-view, but this is the show where this would be your thesis. This would be a huge point of evidence in your thesis that Vince Russo has the utmost disdain for actual wrestling.
Yeah.
Because a match starts and he cannot wait to figure out a way out of that match to the
Yeah.
angle that follows the match.
The match does not matter. It's all about the angle in the match.
In or after.
Yes.
We need to either have a run in, a disqualification, or an angle happen within the first minute or two of a match. It's fucking outrageous. Ray and Eddie come out to fight Harlem Heat. Kidman covers Conan and advances. Conan now big mad again. Ray and Eddie have to keep the two of them apart. Eddie's on the mic to remind them that they're family. The fight isn't here, it's out there. And I'm just like, even at this stage, and the fact that they just haven't properly done anything with him, you're still like, Eddie is so above all this.
Yeah.
He's
And
so
it's
above
funny,
all this.
every time Eddie does something, Bobby Heenan is just like, he's so fucking great. Like, Heenan
Yeah.
is so in love with Eddie.
Yeah. They challenge Harlem Heat to a tag title match and they appear to accept. Buff backstage again, still rambling around talking to himself, but he's in full gimmick now.
You
He's
just
heading to
missed
the ring.
another outsider segment as well, by the way.
No, I've got that next. It's where they're trying to guess whether it's the Assassins or the Bushwhackers as their opponents. That one, or is there
Yeah,
another
I thought
one?
that was before, but
Yeah.
maybe I took it down.
Oh,
in
maybe I
wrong
got the order wrong.
Yeah.
Well, you see, then it goes Buff, Outsiders, Buff, because there's a flashback series of all the Buff being weird segments.
That's what it was. Then okay.
Yeah. And then Buff is here out in the ring, says, oh, God, this was so insufferable, this promo. This was fucking awful. Like, I hate the super insider promos when they don't go anywhere and don't serve a purpose except to like kind of, again, it's that thing everybody said. It's like if Vince Russo was determined to pop all the internet fans because he thought everybody was an internet fan in 1999 and they were not.
Mm-hmm.
But this doesn't serve any other purpose than that. And then, like, not only do you have somebody doing one of those promos, but God bless him, Buff is an idiot. So it's not even a good one of those.
No.
He said he's not doing a job ever again, which again, a good half or more of the crowd have no idea what that means. He isn't laying down anymore. No one gets it. This is getting no reaction, by the way, from the crowd. If you mess with Buff, you get the stuff. He did a catchphrase. They reacted to that. No one tells him what to do, especially the two idiots in the back writing this crap. And then I'm going to hand over to you, Lee, for an arrival in this company you have been waiting for. I know my eyes nearly rolled out of my goddamn head.
Yeah, it's we shall refer to them as Patrick and Gerald. They don't get names for a little bit, but that's what they become known as. Better known as creative control, because
Yeah,
everything's got to be about booking. So these two very bald, very tall men come out.
with no
Uh,
controversial tattoos whatsoever.
oh no, totally covered. Definitely
No,
no,
yeah,
no bad tattoos.
yeah, yeah.
The these guys would go
Two
on to
large
own
alleged fascists appear.
alleged. He just
Alleged, alleged,
happens to be
alleged.
wearing that t-shirt. He had no idea what it meant.
Allegedly, 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 allegedly.
These two would go on to own Anthem or part own Anthem,
It's insane.
depending on who ask. So they were also known as the Blue Brothers,
Yeah,
the Bruise Brothers, and the Harris Brothers. It is, of course, Ron and Don Harris, Dave.
yeah.
And unfortunately, these two will be mainstays for the rest of the run of WCW.
Yeah. Just wait until the Harris brothers a chronic feud.
What I
We have
want to
that to look
know
forward to in
is
2000.
I am now going to keep an eye on just how many JOBs that the Harris brothers do to non-Caucasian people.
It'll be an interesting one, will
I can tell you, I don't think I'm reaching two hands.
it? Yeah, definitely not one hand straight up in the air. Anyway, they rep they said they represent the
They
two idiots
represent a
riding
lot.
it in the back. I think the funniest thing about this beatdown that they do is that Buff takes a double gorilla press, but he takes a cane bump directly onto his knees
Yes.
instead of taking the flat bump. Then we go to Last Man Standing, and this is like the most anticlimactic Last Man Standing match of all time. Dean Malenko versus Chris Benoit. 'Cause they got like what 5 minutes for a Last Man Standing match,
Uh,
maybe seven.
it
Um,
like I can sum this match up. The lads show up in jeans and boots to have a brawl.
yeah,
They have a decent little brawl. The match ends.
yeah, fun brawl for sure.
Like it was just two good wrestlers having a little bit of a fight.
Yeah, and they're clearly again running short on time because there is no slow dramatic counts during this match. These are
No,
fucking rapid fire 10 counts. Filthy Animals come out at the bell because Benoit just makes it up and wins. They come out. Benoit steps aside and lets them attack Dean, which I thought was a clever little you know, it made sense for the character to do that. Shane Douglas comes out with Tori being held in a chicken wing by Asia. If they want Tori, they better let Dean go and stay right there. After a long standoff, the Revolution retreats and they give chase anyway, in spite of those specific instructions. To the back, Tori and the Revolution bail into a limo and speed away. So you have to look forward to more of this on Thunder potentially, Lee.
I have to.
Oh, we all
Uh,
have to.
am I doing it on my own? Or is this like, fucking, have you quit?
I don't know. Who knows what catastrophe will befall me by next week? Um, our
Fucking
next
just as likely to be hit by thunder as watch thunder at this point.
fucking hit by a comet sitting here in my room. Um, like the fucking end of Donnie Darko, just a jet engine will come through my ceiling or something. Um, fuck that movie. Next up we've got Sting versus Brian Knobs. First round, that's got you there. Sorry, that's for Link to the Cast listeners. That's a long running bit.
It's freaking out of nowhere.
Yeah, no, I've had it like a 20 plus year grudge with that movie. Um, So yeah, we've got Sting versus Brian Knobbs. Fuck's
Holy
sake.
shit! Look at Sting.
By the way, the Rainbow Scorpion jacket, class.
Yeah. Also,
And now we're just starting Pride Month. Hell yeah.
did you
Sting
notice?
says gay rights.
Did you notice that Sting had new gear?
Mm,
Because Sting did
not
not
just the
have
jacket, yeah.
he did not have a vest. It was just the tights.
Yeah. Yeah. He's feeling himself.
But he
He's
also
thinking,
never
oh,
took
I'm
off
looking
the
pretty
jacket.
jacked,
So
baby. Yeah. Well, that's more because he got WCW'd.
so
Um,
is this the first example of Sting not getting attacked in the jacket, but actually attacking somebody in the jacket?
if only he had done like no makeup, shirtless on the jacket, he's essentially Mac from It's Always Sunny in the Duster then.
He doesn't have the sweet moves of Mac though.
Yeah. If only he had done an ocular pat down to know to notice the threat level of Hugh Morris and Jimmy Hart. Although maybe he did because he comes out, he immediately destroys Knobs with a bat and pins him.
Would that mean that Shane Douglas is Dennis?
No, who would be the dentist? Do you know what? People should tell us who are the like the
The
It's
always sunny
Always Sunny
characters.
in Philadelphia because like God, would the first family be like the McPoyles, just like creepy little greasy weirdos?
Yes.
Jimmy Hare is Margaret McPoyle.
I'm trying to think who's Danny DeVito's character.
Frank.
Who'd be him?
Oh, this is too good to just throw away first takes on. I want to hear what people think,
Yeah,
and
we need to get some
maybe we'll
feedback
come
on
back
this
to
and
it.
give us some
Yeah,
options
yeah,
and we'll
yeah,
come back to it.
yeah, yeah, definitely. So who are your WCW 99 roster members if you were to cast them and It's Always Sunny? Um, yes, yes, this is good. I like this idea. So we got outsiders game planning, and then we go to the back with Brett. Brett has a hairline fracture of his ankle. He said, even if he has a small chance of getting at the title, it's worth it. God bless Brett trying to add logic or continuity to anything in this company.
Mhm.
He's just a man fighting the tide. He's Job trying to throw the letter into the ocean. He's just, no matter how hard he tries, it's just getting bowled over.
Brett too has looked at many a camera and said, "I've made a terrible mistake."
Yeah, I made a huge, tiny mistake. Um, Okay, then we've got the World Tag Team Title match, Harlem Heat versus the Filthy Animals. We've got somebody who's a big fan of the Maestro, Monday Maestro sign. God bless. Conan does his shtick. This is what I agree. He goes through his promo, even though his pal is currently a hostage on live television.
Gotta get to
Um,
pops. Gotta get to pops.
this was probably your favorite sign of the night. You may even have been holding up this sign. I don't know, Lee. It said, "Russo, where's the gambler?" You were loving that shit, I'm sure.
I mean that if it wasn't me, it was Aaron Gwynn.
Yeah. Stevie and Conan wrestling in fucking treacle for most of this match, I have to say, as you might expect from those two men. Booker comes in, works over Conan. It's a whole lot of nothing compared to the levels that two of the people in this match could achieve. Um, there's a sign advertising the Tick in the crowd. It just says the Tick. The Tick was a great animated TV show. I love the Tick. I don't know why there was a sign for the Tick here, but I'm in favor. Uh, huge. And this is like, again, we're in the last hour of Nitro at this point. Like, we're coming up on the main event, and there are quite noticeable amounts of empty chairs on the
Yes.
hard cam.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
People have had enough of this
Um,
shit.
yeah. Kidman comes in, babyface comeback until Stevie holds Kidman up for a huge Harlem sidekick. Um,
Baby face comeback by fucking Kidman.
yeah. Who are, by the way, they've just like left a man for dead in the desert.
Yes.
Uh, Stevie hits a back suplex, but Kidman bridges up and apparently pins him, even though it didn't look anything remotely like a pin. It was a very messy finish. And the tag team titles have changed hands for the third time in a week. because the animals won
They
it. They got
changed hands. They
stripped.
were stripped. They changed. They won them, and now yeah. So yeah, fourth. Changed hands,
Fourth, yeah, if you
stripped.
include it being
Yeah,
vacated, yeah. Three champions, four movements of the belt
yeah.
in a week. Russo's here, baby. Because we also have similar with the WCW title, in fairness.
Mm-hmm.
I was only talking to our good friend of the show, Keith Brony, about just how many times this title will change hands over the next year. Yes, look forward to it. To the back again, Tanay and Goldberg. Goldberg says if Brett is less than 100%, he thinks he's more dangerous. As for his threat to the outsiders, it's actually a promise. They're next. First round match, DDP versus David Flair. This is fucking shambolic again. Kimberly says from Nitro Girl to Nitro Woman, whatever. She gives you the King of Bada Bing DDP, which I do like that nickname, King of Bada Bing. Clearly, the
You're not
Sopranos,
feeling Kimberly at all, are you?
just her promo is like it kind of reminds me of Sunny, in as much as somebody that clearly has an amount of charisma, but no improv skills at all. Like, do you know what I mean? There's the lines are coming off, and she's thinking, "I'm fucking killing this." And like when you actually listen to what she's saying, you're like, "Nitro Girls, Nitro." Okay, what? Okay, yeah, whatever, Kim, whatever. Um, DDP. I do think it's a good bit that whenever he says he's the former two-time WCW champion, he says two-time, three times.
Yes.
That is a bit we've not talked about. I appreciate it every time. Um, calls out gormless idiot David Flair. Uh, Rain says he has his father's eyes. I said, no, he doesn't, because he looks like he's going to fucking cry. Uh, Kimberly talking to the ref. David in jeans clubs DDP with the crowbar, knocks him down, knocks down the ref and Kim, and walks out. DDP does a stretcher job, and God, like they're almost doing like they're not doing Owen voice, but they're doing like serious concern voice that they're selling that David Flair has lost his mind, which is part of what leads to the eventual kind of the whole David Flair is unhinged, and then he's in with Crowbar and Daphne
Yeah.
eventually. We're
Um.
heading in that direction. Like, I
The
guess, do you know, the one thing I will say in Russo's defense is like one of the more logical ways to explain why David Flair is so shit and so out of his depth is that he's an insane person. So fair enough.
I do think one of the good things they've done is that they've taken David Flair out of wrestling gear. Now he just wears jeans. He doesn't
Yeah,
look as fucking ridiculous.
yeah, yeah. Okay. I've got to take a drink and stretch my back a little bit. So coincidentally, I'm going to leave you to what happens next, which is basically the main reason this show was on our calendar, and that is to recap the Outsiders versus the Porn Stars.
What do you want me to fucking say?
Well, fucking whatever there is to say, Lee.
Um.
Fucking, I'm an injured man, and I got to do my thing.
So the Outsiders come out. They are followed out onto the ramp. They're in the ring. Out on the ramp come creative control, because of course they were representing the two idiots in the back. And they introduced their opponents for the night. And what I believe are three porn stars.
Yeah, I
Am I
didn't do
correct in
too
saying that?
much. If you want to call it research on them. I know from Death at WCW that they're porn stars. I don't know
Yeah,
from anything else.
I have
And
no
I
idea
was
who these women
9
are.
at the time.
Yeah,
I didn't. Yeah,
I have no idea who these women are. The
yeah.
joke seems to be that one of them has like enormously large breasts and
Like
is wearing a very small t-shirt. Yeah,
preposterous, like
and the
fucking
bit,
Euro trash levels.
yeah, that was my first thought was Eurotrash.
So, I suppose to explain, on Channel 4 over here, which is the kind of like was the risque British TV channel. Um, they used to put on very kind of like lewd shows at night. And the thing like lads our age used to always talk about was Eurotrash, which was this show that was nominally like just basically a filthy comedy show
Hmm.
and would frequently have segments featuring porn stars, featuring nudity, featuring sexual escapades. Stuff that like I'm fairly certain at no point in history was allowed on US broadcast television, and I to this day remain astonished that it was allowed on British broadcast television.
But see, I don't think there was there ever actual like sex in Eurotrash. It wasn't like it was.
No, but like they're like,
It
but
was
even the
just.
level of nude, like there was full frontal
Oh, there was
male and
full.
female
Yeah,
nudity at
but it was
like
also like.
10 p.m.
No, it was later than that.
Maybe it was later than that. Maybe it was later than that. But still, like on like not on a subscription channel. Like, it was like free to air. Like you could just tune this thing in if you had
Like
TV.
it like, from what I remember, and again, I was like a fucking young teenager. It was like you'd
Yeah.
have like you know a segment on nudists in fucking Spain or something like,
Yeah.
and then you'd have like what
It
was the present Antoine Dubec, wasn't it?
yeah. It was incredible to find the creative ways where they were like, how can we figure out a way to get tits and a cock on TV this week?
And that's what it was. It was a
And
French comedian that introduced these little segments, and he would have like
yeah,
little the camera pieces with different porn stars
yeah.
in between the segments, basically.
And it ran for a long time in my memory.
Oh, it could have been like a
Um,
2 year run, but like because it was so.
no, no, it got 5 seasons.
There you go. Like it was just
Um,
like everyone was aware of it at our age.
yeah, it ran on and off from September 1993 until 2004. Sorry,
Wow.
it ran for 16 series.
Fucking hell. A lot longer than I thought.
Yeah, this is one we're not doing for the Patreon folks because I know at least one person is probably going, "Oh, now I know. Now I know what my episode is going to be."
Send that one to
And
the
you would
grapple
get like
lads.
there's interesting like there was like some famous names that would show up. Like I know Davina McCall did narration on the show, like
Did
in
she?
I
Okay.
think the very early season. I remember hearing that before. I'm looking at the Wikipedia page here now. Graham Norton was in a season of it. And then there'd be like various kind of like European or British kind of models or page three
Mm.
girls and things like that. So I think the most prominent one they've put in here was Carla Bruni, who was like
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
a very famous model who did a lot of nude modeling, who would later go on to marry the president of France. Um, yeah, it was like an absolutely insane program, which I think had a little bit of a crossover with wrestling fans because when they started showing in 99 and 2000 some through to 2001 some pay-per-views occasionally on Channel 4, Eurotrash sometimes was the program that was on almost directly before
Yes, it would be the
the
lead in.
pay-per-view on Channel
Yes.
4. Yeah. If you want to, Lee, if you wanted to indulge yourself, the entire series was re-released on DVD in 2022 in a 20 disc box set.
Why?
Now it's out of print, but I'm sure you could eBay a secondhand copy.
I would not want those secondhand copies, Dave.
Holy shit. Like for the time it was considered a really expensive show. It cost about £400,000 per hour of the show.
What?
Yeah,
How?
that's mental.
It wasn't a
That
fucking
is
wardrobe.
absolutely mental. That is insane. There's usually six to eight episodes per season, but then the ones around this time, um, actually the series that was airing currently as this episode of Nitro was on, was a 17 episode season. They
It
did a
was
bunch of specials
probably a
as
lot of
well.
on location shooting, so it was probably
It's
expensive.
I think like I think the thing that's difficult for me about Eurotrash is that like I know stuff that I really love that got kicked off the air for much less around this time, like
Hmm.
Brass Eye.
Yeah.
like got hauled off the air after 6 episodes, and they were like, "We're not fucking letting you do that again." Meanwhile, this was
That's British fucking TV for you.
on the same channel as well. Like Brass Eye was on Channel 4. Oh,
Look, your
anyway.
trash was something for the dads. That's all it was.
Sorry, we need to talk about this Matt classic, Outsiders versus the Porn Stars. And I would be shocked if one or more of the three women that we saw in this segment hadn't appeared on Eurotrash at some stage.
Um, I mean, look, the match is ridiculous.
Lots
I
of
can't believe they
thrusting.
put this on TV because
Yeah.
Hall and
On
Nash.
Turner.
Yeah, well, first of all, Hall and Nash are fucking hilarious in the match.
Yeah.
They really are. Like, look, they're killing the company. That
Yeah.
is not in fucking.
Yeah.
There is no disputing. They do not give a fuck, and they don't care if this company does.
Yeah.
But from my perspective, this was very entertaining.
I gotta say the woman that you spoke of with the preposterously large breasts that got in the ring, Brain immediately says that woman is in two different zip codes.
Okay. Also, if you know who these women are, please do tell us in the Discord or
No links. Thank you.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
fine.
no.
Just let us know. Um, Nash loses rock, paper, scissors, and both men lay down and get pinned simultaneously. And I was laughing, and then I was like, is this the first time in like literal years that the outsiders have done a job?
I, I had the same thing, and the only time I can think back is the Steiners beat them clean for the tag titles once,
Yeah.
and that's the only time I can remember the Outsiders doing a clean tag job.
Something I really thought was funny was like Goldberg missed his cue because
Yes.
Nash persuades the aforementioned zip code woman to lift her top. Everybody dances for what can only be described as an awkward amount of time. Then
Mm-hmm.
Goldberg runs out, spears Hall, and then Nash, and then bails. Uh,
Okay,
which leaves us with our main event.
I'm looking up the Outsiders. Hang on.
Okay. Oh,
So,
we got hold music.
hang on. We are. Is this match on? It's not on Cage Match, is it?
No, it's not because it's not listed for the show as officially happening.
Boo.
Yeah. Because then
Okay.
I guess that would like a bit, I totally understand it from the perspective of cage match because then it's like you have to create cage match profiles for the three women.
That you know what? That's true. So no contests, DQ. Sting. Oh, Sting and the Giant. Slamboree 98. But that was where Scott turned on Nash, so that wasn't clean either.
Yeah.
So hang on, let me go back even further. DQ. The Steiner brothers defeat the Outsiders. WCW Monday Night Nitro 126, the 9th of the 2nd, 1998.
So it has been nearly 2 full years since the Outsiders did a clean job.
Yeah, and look, we don't know for a fact that that was clean, but we're just going to
Yeah.
assume it
Yeah. We're gonna
was.
hope.
I'm just trying to see if there's another one before that. That was the Q.
Well, I'll intro us to the main event while you're looking that up.
Yes, you do that.
We have what is listed on Cage Match as a combined WCW United States Heavyweight Title and tournament match. Although I'm not sure about the first part of that. It's Goldberg versus Bret Hart. Goldberg is out, and the whole match is Bret selling the leg and Goldberg working the leg. Goldberg is just mauling one leg at Bret. Bret is fighting as hard as he can, and like as a wounded bear, Bret is great at that. But I don't really enjoy the match a huge amount. Goldberg is just overwhelming him, gets the knee bar. Bret gets the rope. Ref is just begging him to give up. He's not having it. The commentary puts over the courage that he's showing as Goldberg's beating him down, focusing even more now on the leg. Then the outsiders come out and Sid comes out. They destroy Goldberg. Powerbomb from Sid. Brett is allegedly unaware of what has happened, crawls back in, pins him. Goldberg still does a kick out at 3.1. The show immediately ends.
Yeah, so
What did you think of this match?
We have a new US champ, we have a new martial arts division champ, and
Yes.
Goldberg is out of the tournament.
Yeah. That's a lot to happen in what was about 10 minutes.
Also, Goldberg now has a feud with the Outsiders. He still has the feud with Sid. And he now has a beef with Bret Hart. Now, all of that said, I don't hate this match / angle if, and it's a huge fucking if, and I don't believe this was the plan. If Vince Russo had Bret Hart versus Goldberg main event at Starrcade in his plans.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what happens. It has a whole other fucking level of shit added to it. But that is the match that main event Starrcade.
Yeah.
If Russo was planning long term and said, that's the match I'm going to, we're going to have a big world title match at Starrcade, that's our match. And this is how we begin that story. Okay. But you've just given away Goldberg's second loss on TV with fuck all build up for the US title in a tournament you just started.
Yeah. Out in the first round. And I do get the whole having a huge upset thing.
But it's also Bret Hart.
Like, could you not have had them I would totally love the Bret is injured angle, but have him work through loads of tough opponents and get to Goldberg in either the semis or the finals and have the final. Do you know what I mean? Do it that way.
If you were doing the semis and the final on the pay-per-view and you open the pay-per-view with Bret Goldberg and then you do the angle where they cost him the match. Because you know what? You might get some late boys then as the show is going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, look, I don't hate the idea of the angle. I just don't think there was any long-term plan into it. And yeah, Bret working this whole fucking tournament now with a fucked ankle.
Yeah. But also you're kind of just well, he does have a fucked ankle, but also he's just beaten Goldberg. So now he can just do whatever. He's already beaten the toughest opponent straight away.
Yeah. I just want to say, I looked it up there. The Outsiders did a clean job at the Super Brawl 97. They lost the tag titles to Lex Luger and the Giant. Well, I'm saying a clean job. It says just they lost. There was no DQ around. Yeah. So they did one in February 97, one in February 98, and then they lost to the Pornstars.
Love this company. That's why we got to be doing these episodes. Anyway, right. That's do you want your finish counter? I have it. But first, okay. But first, what I have to ask you is who are your winners and losers from this Nitro, and what did you think overall? I actually got a lot. I know you were saying that you didn't hate it. And I was like, yeah, I don't know if I did hate it. I hated the pacing and some of the stuff, but I don't know if I hated it. And I actually got madder the more I recapped the show.
I was just thinking that, I did say at the start of the show, I didn't hate it, but the more we've gone through, I was like, yeah, it was all bad. I think like I said at the beginning, my overarching thought is Russo had some of the right ideas of who to focus on. It's just the way he does it is so fucked. It's just so bad. I'd like to say Goldberg was the winner, but then he had him beaten in the fucking main event and it meant nothing.
I think Bret comes off very well in terms of fighting against adversity. Yeah, he was helped out in the win, but he told a good story.
Bret is the one that he kind of put over the tournament and made it a big deal, and he beat Goldberg, and that's something, I suppose. other than that, everything is so muddled and nobody's likable. There's no actual baby faces on the show.
Hmm.
Nothing
to get emotionally
so
invested in.
It's just so bad.
And wait till you hear this. Such an even spread of, we had 12 matches on this show, 3 clean finishes,
Jesus
2
Christ.
disqualifications or countouts,
What
3 interferences leading to a finish, 3 miscellaneous shenanigans, and 1 complete non-finish to a match.
What was this, an AEW pay-per-view?
Oh, here he is. Anyway.
Yeah. Oh God. I'm dreading watching this next Thunder because I don't know what to
That's
expect.
the show they care about. Imagine what Thunder's going to start being like. Yeah. Anyway, thanks everybody for listening in to another episode of Nights of Nitro in this case. We'll be back, barring, hell freezing. Whatever the fuck is going to happen next, a plague of locusts hitting my gaff or something like that. We should be back in 2 weeks on the free feed, back later this week, early next week, with our Patreon show, our long delayed Patreon show, which is going to be our first PWG review ever of Kurt Russell Reunion 2. So please join us over there for the cost of only 5 Europeans per month. You will get, normally when we are not besieged, you will get at least 3 podcasts within your month. So you can go check that out. We'll talk to you all again very soon. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye. Thanks everyone for listening to another episode of Days of Thunder. Days of Thunder was produced by Lee Malone and edited by me, Dave Ryan. To keep up to date with the show and find all the ways to listen to us, you can follow us on Twitter at WCW ThunderPod or click the Linktree link in our Twitter bio or in the show notes. I am at The Day to Dave on Twitter and Lee is at Malone_713. Days of Thunder is a part of the Voices of Wrestling podcast network. Follow the VOW network anywhere good podcasts are sold for more fine podcasts than you can shake a stick at. Thanks.
Hello there, everybody. It's me, Garrett Kidney, the co-host of You've Got to Be Kidding Me on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network.
And I am Liam Jones, my full name, and I am also a part of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network as a co-host for You've Got to Be Kidding Me.
We are a TNA history podcast that covers TNA 1 month at a time. We cover all the drama, all the matches, all the Vince Russo nonsense you could ever want in your life.
Have you heard of TNA? I bet you have, but would it be funnier if 2 people made jokes over it the whole time? Probably.
So if that sounds like fun to you, check it out on this very Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network, and Liam will do bits and whatnot.
Brace yourself for something fuel nominal. Unleaded 88 is the clear fuel choice. It's cheaper, cleaner, and greener. And it's grown by Iowa corn farmers. Now that's totally worth the hype. So pump it up with Unleaded 88.